Hey everyone, it's Nick from Nick's Crossing, and I hope you all are safe out there. And I'd love to welcome you to my layout up here in the attic. And today I want to show you guys how to build a simple isolated rail utilizing these tools here, and we're going to power up this accessory, this swinging arm gate. Alright guys, this quick tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to utilize a block section to power small or low powering accessories off your track power. You really don't want to draw that much power away from your track. I mean, you're going to slow your motive power down, especially these old big E7s here with all their lighted passenger cars. You're really going to slow this engine down around turns. You're going to have to speed it up. It's kind of a hassle. So I want to keep the power usage to a minimal. So this accessory barely uses anything. It has a light in there. It's like a bayonet light that's painted red, compared to using these solenoid activated crossing gates that draw a ton of power across your track. So for the crossing gates, I'm actually going to use this infrared sensor. It's a trigger system that Lionel came out with in the mid 2000s, and this is the second one I've owned, and the first one I owned as a teenager kind of blew up on me because I didn't read the instructions. But these are really cool, and I guess I forgot to set the track power to aux or vice versa, and it just melted into a puddle. But the other option for powering accessories like the one I'm about to power using the block section are these sprung switches here. This one's cool because you can actually hook up semaphore lights, because this runs I believe it's like a 2 or 3 position switch. So you can run green when there's no weight on the track at all. Then once the train rides across the switch, applying weight and activating the switch, you can actually get your light to turn red. And I can do a small tutorial about that a little bit later. That's actually how this gantry was wired up when I got it, and I had it under the Christmas tree last year. So the accessory of choice today is this awesome swinging pedestrian sign that, like I mentioned before, doesn't use that much power. So I'm not afraid to hook this up, and it won't draw that much away from my track, especially having a conventionally controlled layout. There's actually my transformer down there. Compared to using a command system, a variable speed controller applies the voltage given using the handles, compared to a command system that applies, I believe, like 14, 18 volts AC at the track all the time. So if that's the case, you can use all kinds of stuff on your track. You can use like a relay system. I've seen Atlas use those. I've seen tutorials online of that. Really cool system that I hope to try out one day. So unfortunately, compared to the Atlas track or the fast track stuff, this stuff's all metal. And if you guys aren't familiar with it, just a basic rundown here. These rails are metal with an insulated center rail. So your center rail is your power. This is your hot line here. And your outer rail is your ground or return or earth, as they call it over across the pond. So what you want to do is create a circuit so when the train enters this cut piece of track, or any type of rolling stock, it doesn't have to be an engine, this accessory is going to go off and spin. And actually, this is a side note here, I purposely put this accessory on the passing track so it's not always activated. So how we're going to do this is that underneath this awesome accessory here, the 2 wire leads there go to the motor and the light. So that's going to be my positive terminal. Then the right terminal there is going to be my return. So I'm going to take the positive center rail, solder a wire that's going to go under the table and up to where the accessory will be placed. That will then be placed with the positive terminal here. My ground or return is going to go to the outside insulated rail. Now right now the rail is not insulated, and to do that I'm going to use this electrical tape following the bottom of this rail the entire length all the way to the end to there. Now when this rail gets married back to the crimps there's going to be a gap about that far away. And eventually I could put something in there like an isolator pin or insulator pin. But right now there's going to be a small gap. And that prevents from completing the circuit to the outer track, because this is actually part of this circuit, and this, because they're tied with the metal tie, completes the circuit. So we don't want this rail to touch this, because that defeats the entire purpose of the insulator rail. Same with down here. So to speed up the process, I've used these two tools here, these pliers, needle nose pliers and screwdriver, to pry up each one of these crimps just to save some time. And I'm fortunate here to have a newer piece of track. If you have an older piece of track, these are not as forgiving. These might break as soon as you pry it back, and you have to go really slow, but some of them just snap off and you end up getting these little pieces of metal. And I believe that's how I actually have these pieces here from the cut piece of track. And I actually end up putting this tie in, because this piece of track, so you can see that they're rusted over, these would not work for this project. These would snap, and you would have to end up doing a tie replacement like I did here. So this wire hanging over here needs to be resoldered to the outer track. This is my original ground. For some reason I put it on the other side. I guess I wasn't thinking about doing this project until recent. So when I originally wired up this section of track, I just left this out. So this is actually going to get resoldered, but just ignore if you see this in the video if you're trying to do this at home. So the first order of business is take this piece of track here that I've already spliced and everything, and we're going to insulate it using electrical tape. So I got this all taped up now, and it's not very pretty. I actually contemplated using shrink and then just taking a knife and cutting away, but that would just cost way too much in material, and I think this will be all right. Once this is resting inside the tie, the metal tie, you should barely see this black here, and if anything, you could put some ballast over top just to kind of mask it. But as I was doing this, I'm thinking, man, it'd be easier if I had Gargrave's track or Super O, I believe is plastic tie, or even the Fast Track or Atlas. Now I know Atlas or Gargrave's, all you would have to do is use like a insulator pin or just gap your track. But with the Fast Track, I believe they have insulator pieces. And I think I actually own a piece of insulated track for the Christmas tree stuff to operate my gatekeeper or gate signalman. So basically I'm holding this down because this part wants to spring up for some reason. But this is sitting in here and the tape is ready to be crimped with the, I guess the fish plate crimps on here. And I'm going to use these pliers here and show you guys with a couple of them. And we want to make sure that the tape is not overlapping or whatnot, and we don't want any contact between that little fish plate there or the crimp plate and the track, because that will complete the circuit, which then will defeat the block. Alright guys, as you can see some of the tape hanging out, but it's really pretty well hidden in some places, better than others. As long as you don't look on this side, it doesn't really look that bad. Originally I tried just putting bands of tape across the tie, but then I realized when you go to crimp this thing, these little prongs or crimps, I've been calling them, or fish plate, they were scratching through and creating a non-isolated circuit there, so it's destroying my insulation. But anyways, I'm just going to run a few tests really quick to make sure this is truly isolated from the ties, so I don't go too far and then realize, oh, I got to go back, a couple of steps before wiring this up and soldering it all together. So I'm going to apply power, and if my E7 down there stays off, doesn't light up or anything, it means we're successful in the test. All right. Yeah, that's isolated, guys. So I have my lead on the center rail here and on the outer. And watch, if I move this lead here, this E7 is going to light up, hopefully. Yep. Let me show you guys. And then this is my isolated rail here. What I'm going to do now is anchor these wires by putting them in the intended places underneath the accessory using the clips there. And that's in there. These are pretty fragile. I mean, they've been here for a long time. Almost in there. Okay, so just to show you guys, those are in. I'm going to gently place that off the side so they don't pop out while I'm soldering. I'm going to strip these wires, and this is all 16 gauge Atlas wire. That's awesome for accessories and rewiring stuff. Put the scrap on the floor for now. So let's strip that out. So yeah, get a nice clean strip. So now I'm going to take my Buck Rogers ray gun of a soldering iron or soldering gun. These things are awesome. Let this heat up for a second. And here's my solder. Like I always say in videos, if you're messing with solder, please make sure to wash your hands because there is a trace amount of lead in all solder. And just tinning this really quick. And I'm going to place this. Hopefully you guys can see. Yeah. So I'm going to solder this on this nice use the light on the gun to find where I'm going to solder. Solder right here. I don't want to burn the electrical tape because that stuff will smell so bad. I'm actually going to push this to solder. I prefer using a soldering gun for like quick stuff. If you're going to sit there at a desk, I like using the iron. And actually pull this wire through. Yep. And I kind of like to hide my wires. So, I mean, I wouldn't put this on the outside. It's too late now, but I'm going to hide it on the inside so you really can't see it. I mean, I'll know it's there. And you guys will too, but anyone who doesn't see this video will never know this wire is there. So let me tin this over really quick. I like putting it through the loop here. Okay. So I'm actually going to put this. It's a weird angle, I'm sorry. Just put this there. Just get a nice clean solder. We don't want any cold joints either, so you don't want to blow on it. But yeah, that should work. Alright guys, there she is. So we're now going to give this the ultimate test, and I'm going to power up the track. Alrighty, here we go. So this is the first test, and I'm hoping this thing works. So I'm going to give it some juice. Let's go all the way up. And here we go. I'm going to pull the car across, and look at that. And it wants to work. Wow. And then look, as soon as I go past this rail here, it should turn off. Look at that. Hope you guys really enjoyed seeing this. If you've seen it before, just a different way, I'd like to know. Please comment, subscribe, or like the video. And I hope to post more stuff like this in the future. And I'm probably going to post a few run days this week, especially with other restrictions being in place. So there's really not much to do but run trains. But I hope you all are staying safe out there, and I hope to see you guys in the next videos. Thank you so much.